friends. Welcome to Skill Snacks. Today we have Miss Cecelia Livingston. And she is a mastered certified life coach with a focus on helping burnt out professionals. And we need her because, oh my God, I've done nursing for 25 years. Ooh, I've had that many times. I've needed you in my life forever. I'm going to give you the floor. You tell us a little bit about yourself and how you do what you do.
Absolutely. So, the reason that I am in this space is because I lived it. I was a burned out professional. So, lots of people, my goal was never to climb the corporate ladder, but there's some people who just inadvertently start climbing it without a true, goal or intention. And I was really happy because as a very practical and analytic person, I needed to take care of my family. I had a growing family, and I was being very responsible. And so I had joined an organization 21 years ago, very entry level. And I got very bored in that entry level position and started climbing because I was curious. I worked hard. I asked questions. I had bosses that were okay with me challenging the status quo. And that's not always the case. Sometimes they're like, hit the road once you ask a question. But I was really fortunate, especially in my early days, to have bosses who welcomed my rants and raves about what we could be doing better. And so I created a brand for myself, basically within the company, of somebody who wasn't okay with doing things the way we've always done it. And that automatically created a demand for my work, which I had a family. I had a husband who had 3 kids when we got together. And then we ended up having 2 more of our own. And so, large family, financial responsibilities. And then my husband had a health crisis and ended up in the hospital multiple times due to severe mental illness. Back when I was pregnant with my first. Wow. With my second, excuse me. So I had a toddler who was not yet 2. I was big pregnant and my husband was in the hospital. And, my mom didn't raise no wimps. She raised 5 girls and we all can do whatever needs to be done. It don't matter what it is, right? And I think as women in this society, those of us of a certain generation, we get everything done, right? There is no, what am I going to do? It's, I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to raise my family. I'm going to take care of my husband. I'm going to pay the bills. I'm going to mow the lawn, and I'm going to help my friend out next door because, she's really worse off than I am. So you keep trucking along. And so that's what I did. And I'm glad I did, right? Because this is my family. This is my life. And I love them all to death. And so I picked up that mantle of caregiver back in 2007, when my husband went through his mental health crisis. And he had periods of solid work. But he had long periods of not being sure if he was going to get to work the next day. And then we've had long periods of unemployment due to that as well. And so the stress of just life at home, not necessarily work, but life at home, took on a different cadence than it had previously while the kids are growing and all that good stuff. So fast forward a few years and I'm still moving into new roles at my corporate home. I had never really stayed in one role for longer than maybe 3 years. I was really fortunate that people came looking for me and said, "Hey, Cecelia, I've heard great things. We really want you on the team." Or even past bosses who moved into new roles and said, "Hey, I just created a new team. You're coming with me," type of things. And so, there's many things, I can't say enough good things for the path that I have been on. But the saying you can never have enough of a good thing, I don't subscribe to that necessarily. Because along with those great bosses, you're inevitably going to find the bosses who shouldn't be bosses, who have no business leading a team, who have no business interpreting and cascading and implementing a message or a strategy. And so I came across those as well. So during this time, my oldest inherited child, or excuse me, my youngest inherited child, when he was 18, 19, experienced his own mental health crisis. So suddenly the hereditary nature of what my family was dealing with became very evident. And so happily, we worked through that initial crisis stage with him. And that's a whole nother story. But then when my oldest turned 12, because mental health was such a open topic in our family, we talked about it. We talked about how dad was feeling, why dad was feeling this way, why mom did things that dad couldn't do, so things like that. It was a very easy conversation, and I'm so glad that it was, because then my 12-year-old shared with my husband that he too was experiencing things that indicated that he had inherited some of these mental health issues. And, I took the time that I needed to, as with most moms, it's generally 30 seconds in a dark closet or in the shower in the morning to cry and, get the emotion out. But I had stuff to do. I have a household to run. I've got a team to lead. I have other children. I have a husband who I am still both in a caregiving role, but also still trying to make it be a partnership, the partnership that we had entered into all those many years ago. So I got stuff to do. I can't sit and feel sorry for myself. And my mama didn't raise no quitters. Right. So we kept going. We kept trucking. We got my son the early help that he needed. And so just started, feeling like we were on a manageable path. Everybody was relatively stable with a few bumps in the road at home. So enter one of those people that probably shouldn't be a boss. And COVID. COVID upended everything for so many of us. And in our house, I worked from home. I had worked from home for probably about 14 years at that point when COVID first hit. So my office was at home. I was there, and it really worked well for me because I could manage work and be involved in work, but I could also keep my eye on what was going on in the rest of the household. Right. So when COVID hit, oh yeah, did I mention we homeschooled too?
No, you didn't mention it.
Yeah.
You're doing it all.
We homeschooled too. So when COVID hit and lockdowns hit, I'm like, I don't care. Go do your homework. It's Tuesday. Nothing changes here.
Right.
But the world changed. And whether it was the stress of what's next, or the fact that I was helping manage a team of over 100 as they had to move home and deal with the new stresses of working from home with their toddlers and babies and teenagers right next to them, or all of the things that all of us dealt with, I still had to deal with that in some way. Just, I didn't feel as though I personally had to deal with that big transition of going home, but I was responsible for people who did. While working for a boss who, you know, the term emotional intelligence just wasn't there. The concept wasn't there. And so no matter how fast you run or how high you jump or how late you work, how many emails you answer and send on a Saturday, it's never enough. So I had noticed my inability to manage my own emotions as effectively as I used to. You know, I ain't a crier. I'm a northerner. You know, we're stoic folks. We last through these long, cold winters. And you know, like I said, my mom taught us how to get down to work and get things done. But suddenly I had more and more of those hiding in a dark closet, ugly crying for 30 seconds, getting myself back together, and then going out to deal with the family. And I couldn't figure out why. I knew I was stressed. I mean, we're all stressed. It's COVID, it's life, it's raising kids, it's having high-powered jobs. Isn't this what we all wanted? You know, right? And then I realized I was getting very forgetful. You know, I manage all the people's doctor's appointments. I manage my boss's expectations and her calendar and her meetings. And I realized I wasn't quite sure where all of those things fit anymore. We missed a couple doctor's appointments, which I was mortified by. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get the bad mom label because I missed a dentist appointment today for my kids. So that started creeping up on me. Sleep. What was sleep? You know, you'd get it. You'd be happy that you got it, but you'd wake up exhausted. I had trouble with words, which has never been my problem. I couldn't find the right word that I was looking for. And it could be a very basic word. It could be somebody's name. I'm great with names, but suddenly I can't remember those names. So when the tears started while I was working, that's when it finally started creeping in that something was off balance. It was slow on the uptake. You know, we have things to do. We're fine. We're just really stressed right now, and it'll pass. And I've done this before, and all of those things that we tell ourselves to just keep going, just make it till Friday, right? Just if I can get through this month, it'll be okay. But in reality, I didn't see an end to it. I didn't ever see something that would provide me the relief that I knew that I needed. So I was in denial, but I was seeing how it was starting to negatively impact me finally. And then there was one week. It was in May. I just remember that it was in May, or maybe it was in April. Did I tell you my memory was getting a little funky at that point?
You do it all. It's okay.
Yeah. Where I had made it to Friday, and I just was feeling like, oh, these weekends are too short. You know, we all have that phenomena happening in our life where the Monday comes too fast, and the Sunday dreads are such a real thing, where Sunday afternoon you can't enjoy it because you know it's coming. Monday, you're back to the grind. And the tears started Monday morning. And all week, I was in the same predicament. So my days consisted mainly of conference calls. And this was the company that I was with, the segment I was in. We didn't do a whole lot of video conference calls. So it was just mainly phone, which was really good for me in that position, because I would be sitting sobbing and crying and puffy faced and blowing my nose. And I would hear the conversation coming back around to me, and I'm like, okay, get myself together, blow my nose, take myself off mute, try to speak intelligently, put myself back on mute, and continue to cry. And I'm like, just make it to Friday, just make it to Friday. I have never prayed that harder or as many times as I did that week. Friday got there. Saturday morning, I woke up, I was still crying. Cried all day Saturday. Cried all day Sunday. And I'm laying in bed sobbing, and it's 2:00 a.m. Monday morning. And I text my boss and I said, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I'm going to be applying for short-term disability. She was awake. She texted me back, said, well, what for? And I said, burnout. I can't do this anymore. I didn't hear from that boss again until I returned to work 5 months later. But that was the hardest decision that I've ever had to make, because I felt like I was giving up. I felt like I was, other people manage these things. Why can't I? I'm strong. I'm determined. I have enough know-how, right? What's the problem? And so it totally felt isolating. It felt like I was failing. And I struggled during those first few weeks of burnout leave. I went on a short-term disability. I struggled so hard because I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt guilty because I wasn't doing all of the things. I felt guilty because now that I didn't have all these hours of work, I should be able to do all the things for the family, right? No, I couldn't do that either. I was totally one big puddle of what I thought was uselessness. So learning to sit in silence and solitude was the hardest thing that I had to learn during that time. But that was the best thing for me to learn at that time. So that started a whole new journey for me of recovery. But that was a long answer to your short question. But it's why I do what I do now, because I still, as I tell my story each and every time, I still feel it. I generally have to stop the tears from starting, because I know what it feels like. And I talk to women who are still right there every day. And it takes me back. So, it is a reliving of my own experience, but it just reminds me of how much we need to get out of these cycles that we find ourselves in. And so out of that was born Cecelia Livingston Coaching.
Thank God for you, because like I said, I could have used you in my life many times. And I think after about, maybe 17, 18 years in this field, that's when I was like, I've had it. Maybe it's time for me to retire. I mean, I was involved in other projects, but I was totally, like you said, wiped out. I had 5 children, been married twice, started at 18 years old, married. So I've always had pressure and I was the breadwinner in both marriages. So everything was on me to make sure bills are paid and this is done and kids are in Girl Scouts and kids are in basketball and all the stuff. At the same time, I was still finishing up school because I switched my major from engineering to nursing. I loved math, loved science. Come to find out, I didn't love wearing a hard hat and drawing this. Oh, I got to build a bridge? That's no fun. Well, then why are you in this? Here, my parents, you wasted how much money of our money?
Yep.
I'm sorry, mom and dad, waste 2.5 years of your cash. Let me now
Yep.
work overtime while I'm married, breastfeeding one child here as I'm typing up papers, and figure this thing out and not ask for a cent from my parents, because I feel bad that at 17 starting college, I didn't have a clue at 17 what I wanted to do when I grew up, but I forgot I was a kid.
I forgot you were 17.
It's like they look at you like, well, you should know better. I was 17, for God's sake, cut me some slack.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm 18 and married. First kid came at 21 years old, but I had switched majors. But to make a long story short, it's a lot of pressure. But like you said, our parents didn't raise us to be weak. And then I'm the firstborn of the 3 they had. So I really had to represent. I'm like, oh my God,
Yes, you
I'm
did.
the first kid. I can't. My dad's a doctor. My mom's a teacher. I can't, they've done the best. They put me in good schools, a great neighborhood. I'm not the typical, let's say, Black child in America. If you look at little TV shows, that Cosby Show from back in the day, that really was my life. I was like the Cosby Show.
Yeah.
I'm looking back and looking how other people have come up, especially in my race. I see I had a whole lot to be thankful for. A whole lot. I mean, some kids are being raised by moms that are on crack cocaine, or fathers who are totally absent from their family. Where my mom and dad to this day, and they're in their 70s, are still together. I can't even say it. I'm divorced, but they're still together. So I was like, I can't fail them when they've done everything for me. I can't make an excuse. There is no excuses. My dad was always one to say, well, if you can't do this, you have to figure out a way to do it. Always figure out a way, and he's been saying that since I was little. Literally, I mean, I was like 7, no, I was 9. And my dad used to give me $1 a week allowance. I'm like, but Dad, that's not enough. The candy prices have gone up. He goes, well, get a job. I'm like, I'm 9. How can I get a job? Hello? He's like, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. My parents taught me how to do housework. They taught me how to pull weeds. I can do this. I can do that. I babysit my little brother, and he's only two years old. I'll make flyers and I'll stick them in every door. And I'm already a boss, and I figured it out. Next thing I know, I'm making like $10 a week, $20 a week. I'm like, I'm 9 with a job. This is awesome. So I've been working since 9, figuring it out, because there was no excuse not to figure it out. And my dad didn't even take age as an excuse. Well, you're 9, get a job. What? Is that legal? What happened to child? I mean, you make me read. I know about child labor laws, Dad. Yeah, figure it out. But you're not getting a raise.
And you say that, and that's very similar to my family. So my mom's white, my dad's Black, and so raised in northern Wisconsin. So my dad is from Mississippi. So his view of the world was very different than ours, because we were raised in a very predominantly white area. And then there was my mom. So, it was, he would bring in what he could, what was natural to him, which was, from growing up in a very poor area in Mississippi, very rural, dirt floors, the whole 9 yards.
That's tough.
It was, you did what needed to be done. He mowed lawns. He was a disabled alcoholic, very actively alcoholic. But he couldn't drive. He couldn't hold a job by the time I came around, but he would walk a mile with the lawnmower to mow somebody's lawn, because that was just what he did to get cash in his pocket. But in that environment with 5 girls, my mom was then the de facto runner of the house. And so, here he's surrounded by 6 women or girls with a very strong-headed wife, because she had to be. She had to get the job done. There was 5 children to take care of. So she worked at nursing. I remember spending nights at nursing homes with her where she worked, and sleeping on the bed or on the couch in the nursing lounge. I don't know why I was there, but every once in a while I would go with mom to work.
Was she a nurse?
She was a CNA. Yep.
Okay. Pretty much a nurse then.
Yeah,
She did the
exactly.
same stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Or coming home at noon from kindergarten, and she would get us lunch, and we knew we could watch a couple TV shows on PBS, and then it was our nap time, because guess what? It's mom's nap time too. She needs to sleep because she's got a shift that night. And so whenever house remodeling or repairs needed to be done, mom did it. Whenever bills popped up that needed to be paid, mom took on extra hours. There was never a question that we would have what we needed. And no, it wasn't a lot, but we had what we needed because mom did it. And so that was the same thing that she gave all of us. I have one sister who is a fabulous baker. She loves to sew, but she remodels her own kitchen when she wants to. Those are the type of women that my mom raised, that we can do it all when we want and need to. And it's a great thing to fall back on, but gosh, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because we then expect that we should always be able to carry all of it forever and a day. And so that's where I found myself. Yeah.
I had a coworker tell me years ago. I mean, we knew each other. Me and her were friends also outside of work, but she said, "Oh my God, you're such a bully." And I'm like, I took it really personal. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like the nicest person. I get along with everyone. I love my patients. I love their families. I mean, even some of the managers where I'm like, oh my God, I even work with them. Turn the other cheek so many times. I turn this cheek, that cheek, both the cheeks I'm sitting on, other people's cheeks. That's how many times I turn the cheeks. So I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, no, I don't mean to other people. You're a bully to yourself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you figure? She said, you are the hardest person on yourself. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? I guess I kind of am, but I had a reason. Not that it was a good thing.
Yep.
But my reasoning was, when I lived in my parents' household up until 18, because I literally got married at 18, because, I think I'm grown and I'm in love, and my mom has strict rules. And if I even think about a boy, I might be going to hell. So I got to get married, so because my mom raised me like that. Oh my God. Ooh, brainwashing, honey. But anyway, that's a whole nother segment. So all that pressure too, you're like, oh my God, will God hate me if I think of this boy? Maybe I should get married. He's been asking me to marry him. Yeah, we were just children. Yeah, I think I became sort of that bully to myself, as she puts it, because I looked at myself as, okay, I'm out on my own. I'm a wife now. Then 2 years later, I became like a mom and a wife, still a student because I switched majors from engineering. They're still working 2-3 jobs to pay for school and help pay for the household, and now pay for daycare for this little one. And I didn't know what else to do, but literally say, well, I gotta be the mom and dad to myself, and be hard on myself, and be strict on myself. There is no excuse. You don't need to sleep. Just drink some extra caffeine. Get a 30-minute nap. Get back to your studies. So I was in that mindset.
Just saying was that, society almost programs us, and they'll say it, they do program us to do all of the things and be so hard on ourselves when we can't do all of the things, and still keep the facade of everything going perfectly going, and so when I looked at my life at the point of burnout, and I'm like, what am I missing? What could I have used as things were escalating that I didn't have.
Mhm.
And how do I make sure that those things stay at the center of my life going forward? Because life isn't going to cut you any breaks.
Oh my God, no.
No. So it's like I need to take myself and move myself to higher on the priority list, which is so hard for us to say, and then even harder for us to really do, right? And so a good part of my recovery was just coming to terms with that it's okay to say, you know what, y'all are teenagers or older, you can figure out what to eat for dinner tonight.
Wow.
Mama's off duty. I'm sitting on the deck listening to the birds by myself.
Oh, I would have loved that. Mm.
That is what mama needs for
I
tonight.
need to do that now.
I know. And she'll probably need it for the next few nights. There's a reason that mom's crying all the time. So guess what? This is my time. And so, taking those steps, which to me at one time seemed totally selfish. How dare I not make my family a meal, or at least be the one to go pick it up and pay for it? That was the easy night of still figuring out what everybody wanted and going and getting it. Where I finally said, you know what? I don't care. You'll eat, you'll be fine. And guess what? You're going to be more equipped to figure out what to eat on your own when you're out on your own. Because I'm not making your meals when you move out.
This is so good.
And why aren't you contributing to the running of this household? There were things that in my practical brain, I'm like, yeah, my kids can contribute. They should contribute. They should be doing chores. They should be making meals. They should be blah, blah, blah. But in reality, I let them slide. And so it was a good learning opportunity for all of us during that initial phase of recovery, because I physically and mentally and emotionally couldn't do it. So guess what? I'm empowering you now to make spaghetti and meatballs. Look in the freezer, put it all together. You've seen me do it many times. You'll be fine. And so that was a big step for me. But the isolation of everybody else has figured it out. Why can't I? That was the hardest thing for me. One of the hardest things for me. And so what do you do in this digital media world when you need some support? You turn to Facebook, you turn to social media, and you start collecting friends who know what you're talking about, who have felt what you feel, who are feeling what you're feeling, or who have come out the other side of it and can help guide you. And so that's what I did, because I couldn't reach back out to people on my work team.
Yeah.
I couldn't reach out to people in my family. So besides my therapist, who I am a proponent of therapy and medication to get you through the things you need to get through and over the humps and to a point of maintenance. So I will always make that disclaimer. I am not shy about it. I am not ashamed of it, because I needed it for my recovery. And I'm still taking some of them now, because you know what?
You have to do.
You do. Quit trying to be Superwoman or Wonder Girl or Wonder Woman or any combination of them, and take what you need in order to survive, and not just survive, to thrive. That's what we're meant to do. We're not meant to just claw our way from one day to the next. So that was my medication tangent and therapy tangent. But so I created a group on Facebook because I needed the community. I needed people who understood and who got it. And suddenly I was getting instant messages from people who I did not know, who said, "Oh my God, thank you for creating this group. It feels safe. We can say what we need to say." I ended up picking up the phone and talking to people on the other side of the country who I did not know, but who felt comfortable enough and got to know me enough through my very vulnerable posts to say, you know what, she gets me. And she might only be a few steps ahead of me, but I want to talk to her.
Mhm.
Do I have all the answers? No, I am not here to tell you what to do. I don't know what to do. Your life is your life. You know it better than anybody. But there are some things that we have in common that help us to speak the same language, to understand our shared experience. And then I know some questions to ask you to move you forward, to help you figure out what you really need and what you really want. So that's what my community was on Facebook. It was just a simple Facebook group, and we would do virtual coffees at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday.
Wow.
To just chat and see where people were and how people were doing and what their challenges were.
Beautiful.
And then those one-on-one calls. And then I'm like, I need more tools, because then my helper hat came on. You know, we all have multiple hats every day. And I started seeing the coach in me, which as a mom, as a boss, you know, we're coaches all the time. We've been coaches. We don't realize how much we're coaches until somebody defines for us what a coach is.
Mhm.
And then we're like, I've been doing that for decades. Why are you not getting paid for that? So I took my first coaching course simply to provide more assistance to the women in my free community Facebook group. Because I was so passionate about wanting to give people the things that I did not have when I was going through it. That's what gave me my purpose when I was still sorting through all of my own junk. I might not be able to hold a job right now. I might not be able to meal plan anymore. I might have to completely rely on my Google Calendar to get us to all of our doctor's appointments, but I can still help somebody else who needs a hand.
Right.
And once I did my first coaching course, I'm like, sold. This is what I should be doing.
Wow.
You know, the corporate world, I'm a number. We all know that. We all know we're numbers.
All numbers.
Yeah, we're all numbers. But to see the impact that I can have in somebody's life, gosh, it's like seeing your kid walk for the first time or say their first word. That's what coaching is for me. So why wouldn't I embrace that and know that I'm positively helping somebody through their moments of crisis as well? So, yeah.
So how can people reach out to you and get a hold of you if they need your help? Because believe me, I think all of us on the planet need your help. You're gonna have to split yourself up a whole bunch of times. Other than that, you know.
Okay. That's okay. In fact, I've got a network of other coaches that if somebody has a unique situation that I don't feel as though I'm qualified for, I find them a different coach. Even, you know, when we first started talking, in fact, there was a woman who was suffering from ADHD and it had, you know, really made itself evident as an adult, which is happening more and more, especially for women. I don't have a whole lot of history or knowledge about ADHD. It's one of those things on my to-do list where I want to delve into that more because it is becoming so prevalent. But guess what? I know a coach who specializes with women with ADHD. So I got her over there. So that's one of the really nice things I have, is a broad network of coaches to reach out to. But if people want to contact me, they can find me at cecelivingston.com. Really simple. It's CECE Livingston.com. You can take a free quiz there to see where you are on the burnout scale. How bad is it? Let's get an objective view, because like we talked about before, we're always in denial till we can't deny and ignore it anymore. And, you know, when people think about being vulnerable in this sort of space and working with a coach on burnout and what's going on in my life and in my heart and in my head, it can be very intimidating. I know. I remember my first appointment with a therapist. And even though I had been to a therapist for my husband and for my son, that was for other people, right? But now it's me. Oh gosh, I'm the one who has to take my own medicine. I remember that feeling. And so my conversations are, I would say, very easy. We just chat. And in fact, before an individual would even decide that they wanted to work with me, we would probably have talked for at least an hour and a half in a couple different sessions to just chat and get to know each other. So when I take on a client, they want to be here. They're ready and willing to continue the conversation and figure out how to get over those hurdles in their lives and make the decisions that they want to make and need to make in order to move their lives forward. So, you know, right before our chat, to let you know, I was in a tank top and a do-rag because I didn't have time to do any of the stuff. I generally don't wear makeup either. I am as real as I can be, both for interviews like this, as well as in my coaching sessions. So by doing that, I help my clients be as real as they can be.
That makes sense.
And so,
they can feel open and comfortable just coming as they are.
Yes, this is your space. This
Right.
isn't my space. I have my virtual background up here, but it's fake because this is all about you. And that's what I want my clients to know and feel. And that's how we start off. And so you might hear my dog bark. You know, a cup of coffee may miraculously appear when my husband drops one off
My
for
water
me.
cup.
This is a Cuba Island cup
Oh, I
from
like that.
a friend's trip to the shores
Any
of
clients get cups like that from you?
I
Maybe a little
love
thing to come up with for your
I
clients?
love big coffee cups. Yes, I've been thinking about merch, so you know that might be something in the
Do
future.
that. I love
'Cause
my
it's
big
one-
cups of tea.
Yes, that's one thing all of us burned out women need is a good coffee or tea mug. So
All day long, I drink tea all day.
yes. So yeah, you know, this is me. This is who you're gonna get. And it's your time and your space. And the one thing I want people to always remember is that you're not alone. We are all in this together. And even if I don't have the answers, because I don't, you already do. It's just that we have to uncover them and find them. And that's what we take time to do.
You're like an angel from heaven or something. I mean, it's like I feel for everyone, and that's pretty much every woman. And I don't want any men to feel left out because I know men go through it too. There's dads that's doing everything, and maybe their wife passed or they broke up or whatever it could be, and they're doing it all. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm just, oh, it's just about women, because I know men are going through a lot of that too. But just my own personal experience, I've only met women kind of doing it, but I know that men do it too.
Yeah.
Especially now when they have, you know, households where the husband and the wife are both males, they're even going through it even more because they're trying to raise an adopted child or whatever else. I mean, they're going through the same thing that we as women have gone through. And because it's the same dynamic, it's just, you know, different roles.
Agreed.
Yeah, I even though I feel bad that you went through all that, at the same time, I'm kind of happy you did, because you know how it goes. No one really wants to hear advice or even vent to someone who hasn't been there, done that. I mean, even in patient care, I've been through so much and heard so much and learned so much, especially from my elderly patients, which I love pediatrics, but I love my elderly people more because
They're
they've
great.
been through life and they have stories upon stories, whether it's war stories, and you're like, oh my God, thank you for fighting for this country. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even be here. From there to whatever they've been through, and then you learn from your patients while you're taking care of them. But if they hadn't been through nothing, they couldn't help this new generation to come up better. And that's kind of how I look at you, even though you're super young and sexy and gorgeous. And, oh my God.
Super
When your
young.
calendar
Oh
comes out,
gosh.
I want my signed copy. So they go like, you know her. Yes, I do. Nah, you wish you did. That's Oprah's friend, honey. Yeah. Yeah, you're beautiful. You're absolutely beautiful. Not only on the outside, which you're dreamy beautiful, but on the inside, you get to see it, feel it, your aura, everything about you. And wow, I just feel, I'm not gonna be emotional. I have to. I feel really honored that I met you.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah.
This is one of those roads that regardless of where we are on the stress management scale, we've all been there. We've all experienced something of it. And the more we can connect with the human beings on the other sides of these screens that we are so attached to these days, the more enriched we are and the better we are off for it. So thank you for this invitation.
Needs you. The world needs you.
Thank you.
So just keep growing your coaches, and I'm going to make sure too that I'm going to put your information also within the video.
Great.
Just in case they missed that part or they stepped away from their screen for a second and didn't know to rewind it when you were giving away that information for contacting you. I'll make sure that it's in the video. But it has been a pleasure all on this end to meet you and to find someone that really understands. 'Cause I'm like, is it just me? Do I not think together? Didn't I take my vitamins? How come I can't balance 300 gazillion things? Or if I'm balancing it, I'm still beating myself up because it's not enough. And to hear you say you got to sit outside and listen to birds, I would have felt guilty for that. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have someone in my life like you to say it's okay because of the way I was raised, not putting down my mom. I love my mom.
Exactly.
Really, she raised me as it's God first, then your husband, then your children, and then you, when you get around to yourself. So I never felt right doing anything really for myself until all of this was met.
Right.
God has to be happy. Let me do this. My husband has to be happy. Let's plan the Super Bowl party. Let's do his birthday party. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's wash his clothes. Let's bake him a cake. Because I had a husband, my first husband, that wanted a cake fresh every single week. Literally baking a cake every week fresh.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, I work 2 jobs. I'm a Girl Scout mom. I'm a basketball mom. I bake cakes every week. The whole thing. I was the one that everyone came to my house for Christmas. Everyone came to my house for Thanksgiving. Got to make sure your mother-in-law is happy. Did she get her ham? Is it made with the pineapple? Is it made with the glaze? Because I didn't even eat it, but she liked it a certain way. And I'm like, okay, I can't let her down because letting her down is letting my husband down because that's his mom. So you're trying to make everyone happy in the world, down to the guys, all the coaches I invited to the Super Bowl party. Well, which beers do you? I don't even drink beer to this day. But I gotta make sure I have every beer that they all like, and then when the party's over, they can take their box home. I mean, everything. And I look back and I'm like, I put all that on myself. I don't remember anyone coming to me and say, Diane, you have to do this and that. So I think back, well, who made me do all this? Oh, it was me. Because I felt that I had to, like you said, wear that cape. And I felt that I wasn't allowed to make an excuse. How dare you make an excuse? You're a wife and a mom and you're a multitasker. That's your job. You put on the role, earth for that role. And I didn't really cut myself slack until literally, which is embarrassing to say this, but literally maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, when I'm like, I'm just so burnt the heck out. I'm going to take off a few months, work, because you save your money, but you don't really do anything with it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Somebody bills. What am I going to do for myself? No, but let me give my kids this and do that for them. Nothing for yourself. I did a spa day. I literally said, I don't watch TV because I don't have time for that. I'm gonna literally watch some movies that I've always wanted to see. I'm going to take some strolls. I'm going to walk around the track. I'm going to do these nature walks. It's a nature trail right in my neighborhood, and I've never used it because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
Why am I too busy? And then literally I had a really close call with death, so to speak. I was on a travel assignment, and I had an ice patch because everyone's like, "Oh, I know you got paid." No, I didn't get paid. I had an ice patch. I can't sue an ice patch. Not another person, ice patch. And went down a mountain. The car got totally totaled. The front was ripped. The whole part was ripped in the front. And I'm sitting there like, how the heck did I survive that? Why am I still alive? And then that made me have a whole new viewpoint. And this was literally a couple of years ago. A new viewpoint on life. And I'm like, you know what? If I die today, which I felt that I probably should have died, looking at that car, there's no way I should be alive. Looking back, what did I do? What have I accomplished? Okay, you went to school, you raised kids, you raised your husband. I hate to say it that way, but that's what it felt like. It felt like that. So everything. And what have you done for yourself besides burn yourself out, save a bunch of money that you can't take with you that's going to be left to everyone in your family? You build a will for them. What have you done for you?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, nothing. I hadn't even learned how to just be. I had read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I read all these books, but had I really applied it? No. Did I understand it? Sure. And I'm like, literally, you know what? I'm going to embrace now. I'm going to have days where I'm literally going to shut the world off. And since I'm in a house right now by myself and alone and quiet, I literally turn the phone off, turn the computer off, turn everything off that lets the world contact me. And literally say, I'm going to just play some music. I'm going to just look at I'm going to look, a nice big backyard. I'm going to look at these deers walking around, looking at me, and I'm looking at them, and we don't know who we are, but hey.
We introduce ourselves today.
Plant some flowers. And I've been happier now. I mean, literally, I don't want to say it feels exactly like probably hitting the lottery. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. But to me, it feels like hitting the lottery because I've never been happier in my life. And all I did was really just embrace right now, today, each day, day by day. Totally embracing it and doing what I want to do in life. I raised the kids. I had the marriages, I'm going to do some me time. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it when I have 300 people calling me saying, how come you won't answer your phone? I text you all day. Because it's me time. I don't have to explain it to you. My mom always made me explain everything. Explain yourself. No, I literally don't have to. I'm a grown woman. I don't explain myself to the world. You get it or you don't get it. That's none of your business. It's all the businesses is mine. That I take care of myself both physically and mentally. And, I can feel the youth coming back. I look in the mirror and I say, God, I look younger. I feel younger. And all I did was literally just take time for me. That's all I did. No special vitamin, no special job, no new boss. Just take time for myself. And I kind of had to learn it the hard way with the brush of death to say, wow, do you really want to end your life like this? What if you ended it?
Exactly.
That's really nothing for you your whole life.
Exactly. So you've experienced the power of getting, your point of your crossroads came at the expense of almost losing your life, right? My crossroads came in not being able to get out of bed because I was crying and I couldn't work and I couldn't do anything anymore. How much have we lost in time and enjoyment because it took us until that point? So if we can just get one other person out of this conversation to understand that, to understand how much better life can be on the other side of that realization, then it's all worth it. Then it is all worth it. So, yeah.
It's like saving a life. I mean, the hospital, I do critical care and I do a lot of different roles, but I save lives there. But this is really saving life because what good is it? I got the patient off the vent. They're breathing now. They're healthy. They're back at home. And then they're right back in that mental state where they were before they got hit by a car or whatever and got in my trauma center. But I'd sent them back home, but they're really not technically repaired because they still have all this mental stuff going on that no one knew need to be fixed. And they're too ashamed or scared or think they aren't allowed to vent and say, I need help. So let me just keep it to myself and just be miserable. So that's where you come in. Just like we heal the physical bodies in the hospital, but you're healing the main part that people need to just literally survive each day and to embrace their life. I mean, I don't know what happens after we die. I don't know if we're going to have another life or if there's multiple lives or multiple universes, or I don't know any of that. All I know is what I know now. So if this truly is the only life I have, I need to make the most of it and enjoy it, not just be like this little robot that's just doing for the world and nothing for myself. I need to embrace and love life. And like I said, I took a close call of death to realize that and to say, I'm doing it. It's no more talk. Talk is cheap. We're doing it. So we
Get it done.
We need you. And I'm just so happy you're here.
Yeah. Thank
It's
you,
been a
Diane.
pleasure.
This has been a pleasure. Yes.
I'm keeping in touch with you.
Love
I'm
it.
just saying, because I'm getting involved with more stuff that may be a little stressful. I'm like, okay, what did I do with our contact information? Yeah, no, seriously.
And I would love to, you know, as we talk about this topic, it's really about normalizing the way we're all feeling, and that it's okay to have these conversations and to say, I need help, like you said. So, you know, whether that be in corporate situations and speaking to groups and teams of people, or community groups or mom groups or whatever it is, you know, any of your folks, if there is a spot that I can help fill, I am more than happy to do that. So, you know, just wanted to toss that out there because I can talk about this for hours. I'll spare you that today, but
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And I'm just going to say out there to the viewers, if anyone wants to leave a comment or they want her back to discuss anything, or even if we want to do a group forum in some kind of way that can,
absolutely,
that can help others. I mean, I know some stuff is personal. You might want to just be one-on-one with her or with her coaches. But if there's something you like, you know what, I want to say this, I want the world to hear this because it can help other women around the world or other men around the world, other children. I mean, we have children that are like literally being the parents because maybe their mom or their dad are strung out on certain drugs or different things, and they're literally holding the fort down for families. And then you hear about this when they get older, like, yeah, I've been taking care of mom and dad since I was 12. I cooked, I cleaned, I this or that. I'm like, whoa, all that on you? You couldn't just be a kid? No, couldn't just be a kid. I didn't even play with toys. I just worked. So even children are out there that are going through the same thing. It's really sad. But we need people like you. And again, thank you. And we'll definitely stay in touch.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Have a blessed day.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Diane. This has been fun.
Me too. I've loved it. I've loved every bit. And I've learned so much.
Good, good, good.